All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our final episode of the year for the AI podcast here with Get Vibey, the AI series. Nick, welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, JP. Thanks for having me again.
Of course, of course. I wouldn't do this without you.
Oh, stop it.
I see you have a new background.
I do.
You've been traveling around. You've spent a lot of time in Europe lately.
I
It
know.
looks like you're visiting us with your presence maybe now back in
Yes,
the States.
I'm back in the States. I love that every episode becomes the beginnings like a where is Nick in the world? This is yeah, I'm back in the States, back for the holidays, and then we'll go back to Europe in the new year. So closing off
Europe.
the year strong back in the
They
US.
got you. They really got you. They got you with all the vacations over there. They got you sucked in. They're like,
That's
yeah,
it. It's a pretty nice lifestyle. Yeah,
awesome.
but yeah.
I mean, this is a little bit of a special episode. We're kind of doing a recap of like 2025, what has happened. Looking back from January to December, it feels like every week there's so much going on. I can't even believe like the whole year. We looked at the agenda, like you put together like an amazing timeline, and I was like, holy crap! Like where we started versus where we're now, it's like reminds me of like the baby memes. Like when you start and then you end the year, and you're like, whoa, like it's
Yeah.
like a whole human now.
Totally. I mean, just putting this timeline together and going through the year, you're just like, wow, remember when that happened? And it's
Yes,
where we are now with AI compared to the beginning of the year. It's just it's leaps and bounds and it's really crazy. So,
it's wild. And even just like the last 4 weeks,
mm,
every single major company came out with a new model.
yeah.
And I would say every single model was great. Every update was like, ooh, okay, all right, we're getting somewhere. Like this is getting to the point now where it becomes more and more reliable, super usable. Like things that like were super annoying are like kind of like the kinks are getting out, and you're like,
Yeah.
all right, like I can like this is like getting really nice.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
um,
it's the features and like the way that they're creating these models and it's evolving to new ways. A lot of it in the beginning of the year was pre-training, was a lot of data, throw and scaling, throw a lot of data at the model and make that work. But then DeepSeek R1 came out, which was a huge moment for AI in general. And I think for our listeners and for a lot of people, the big difference there was this was a Chinese model that was the first open source model and was way cheaper to make than the initial models that many of the companies in the U.S. Had made, and that sort of shattered a lot of what we knew in the AI space, and that was the beginning of the models, at least in the timeline that we're talking about. Really crazy moment, and what I think was so different there was this was a shift from training, which was like throwing more data, having the whole of the internet as your data set, to reasoning, to showing its thoughts, and to have like reinforcement learning behind that. And that was a huge difference.
yes, I agree. I mean, when it came out, everybody was like, holy crap! Like how did they do this? Because like you have to think about this, like there was export restrictions, so they didn't have like access to the latest hardware, the latest GPU that like all these companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google have. And we thought, at least the US thought, I should say, was we were thinking we're so far ahead. We have all these amazing companies. We spend so much money, like they're spending billions. And then out of nowhere, like this DeepSeek model comes out, open source, so everybody can host it, everybody can use it. It's way cheaper, and the performance was almost equal to the US models from OpenAI and Anthropic at the time. And
Mm.
it definitely caught everybody by surprise in the beginning of the year. And they keep shipping. I think a couple others came out of the market too, like Kimi K2 and some other like coding specific models. DeepSeek just came out with like another update, mostly like geared towards like improving agentic performance, so like long running agents and jobs. Um, and then I think you just saw that they're gonna like lift some of the export controls around GPUs. So the new H300s or something like that. They're gonna sell them to China now, and at least approved companies. So that was like a little bit of a debate in the public in the last couple of weeks of like, why are we now exporting those GPUs to China after all? And I think the reasoning is that they're trying to avoid to keep the US tech involved, meaning like if they have to use US tech to train the models, that means that we kind of stay relevant, we stay important, we have kind of like control, versus like if they move completely over to Chinese tech, like Huawei, and
It's a hard one to
they
say.
just they use their tech. They're not going to be relying on us anymore. Like it's a completely different shift in how it works and what they need. And so if there's like a little bit of dependency, that's going to benefit the US, basically a US based company. So that's kind of like the argument. It's interesting because obviously there's something to it where as long as you have a dependency, you kind of like stay a little bit on top. Once the dependency goes away, you don't need export restrictions anymore because they just built their own chips. So it's interesting to see where this goes. I have a strong feeling that there will be a very strong Chinese competitor to NVIDIA, and they will be supplying their own chips, is my guess. The same way, and then you won't be able to buy them here. Same as like the phones, you can't buy them here. I know you can buy them in Europe, but like you can't buy them in the US. So I know there's already like a bunch of restrictions going on.
And and I think we saw that throughout the year, especially with this DeepSeek launch, where in the beginning, GPUs were great also for this pre-training data set. That's what GPUs, where they really shine. But then after, with reasoning and sort of a later step in the modeling, that's where over time, TPUs and like the newer versions of the Blackwells and other servers, like that's where that shines. So the hardware is continually evolving as well, and that's what you were saying, that the US really wanted to sort of try to control that a bit more so that they could also see where AI would be going.
Yes.
But yeah, if it's sort of a black hole and China sort of does whatever they want, then another DeepSeek moment could happen in the future, and that's that's maybe good for moving AI along and making it, to be honest, making it cheaper for everyone. I mean, the token prices went down significantly from with DeepSeek when that launched, and so that change, more competition is good. It increases ideas, collaboration, or well, not even collaboration in this case, but at least copying.
Yes,
And
copying.
yeah, so that's part of it too. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
I think it's inevitable. Open source is strong. I think we're going to see a lot of changes in the inference. So inference, for people that don't know what it is like when you actually go ask ChatGPT a question, you still have to like compute something. So like once the model is trained, you have to run what's called inference, so like actually generate the response. And you don't necessarily need NVIDIA for that. You need NVIDIA chips for that. I think there's better chips and better software now that can do this faster. Like Grok with a Q is like one of them. They came up with their own chip. They're hosting all these open source models from Meta and from OpenAI, and then also like DeepSeek models and Kimi K2. And if you've ever tried them, it's 10 times faster. So like you type it, it's maybe sometimes 100 times faster. It's wild how fast it is. We're kind of like used to this like, oh, let's wait 10 seconds and 20 seconds for the thinking. And over there, it's just like 1 second and boom, you have like the same answer. And it's like much quicker. So I'm excited for that because I think 2026 will be the year we're going to see some local models running on phones and maybe laptops. We don't actually have to go to the internet. You don't need an internet connection, and it just runs locally on your computer, on your device. And I think that will be an absolute game changer. And I'm very curious to see what Apple will do there, because I have a feeling that Apple will exactly do that, and they're pushing for on-device privacy models that allow you to run these things like without an internet connection. Like you can be literally on airplane mode and you can still use it.
Edge AI, they're calling that space, to be able to have it on your own hardware, and that's Apple's play. Like, and that's just even today, Apple agreed to have Gemini on their re-agreed, had this continued this agreement with Google, and that's going to be a huge cash cow for any one of the models. So they're just going to
Yes.
continue to compete for that, because if you have access to the iPhone, you have access to millions and millions of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see what Apple does next year. They've kind of been completely behind the game, like, completely lacking. And everybody's kind of like, what are you guys going to do? Like, you have to catch up eventually. But so I'm very curious to see. I have a feeling they have a strategy, but maybe they don't. But talking about companies that were behind, let's talk about Google. They
Yeah,
went from like, WTF are you guys doing, to like, holy cow, like, you guys got it back. Like, they're just threatening OpenAI right now. They just took market share. They came out with a brand new model just this week and last week, Gemini 3. They are cooking. They brought back Google Labs. Like, oh my goodness, like, the co-founders are back at the desk. They're working, they're hustling, and they're just like out there just crushing. What have you seen, Nick? Like, what excites you the most?
I mean, it's so true. If you go back to January, Gemini 2 came out. It was sure a little better with the benchmarks, but it wasn't like, wow, that's so much better than ChatGPT. In terms of market share, ChatGPT, OpenAI was crushing Google, and it looked at that point as if the search market share of Google was just going to be taken, and be taken very quickly. I remember many friends coming up being like, because I used to work at Google, and they were like, you better sell your shares, because it's not gonna it's not gonna be worth anything anymore. Luckily, I didn't sell all. I sold some, but I didn't sell all. And yeah, as you said, I mean, the next few models, Gemini 3 was, I think, a really big moment. That was a pivotal moment for Google to show and to step up. Gemini 3 was also sort of trained and created in a bit of a different way, with keeping inference and also sort of like later steps in mind, and also the pre-training. And so even though we had already seen all the data in these models being used, there was still more to gain, and a lot of that was because of other features, other ways that the model was built, and then also using TPUs, which is something very specific to Google, and that I think we're just seeing the benefits of that, and that's going to definitely continue in 2026 for Google. And of course, the data. I mean, they had, I think in the beginning of the year, I think it was 4 or 5 apps with at least 1 billion users.
Yes.
4 or 5 different things. Google Maps, Gmail, like
YouTube.
YouTube. I mean, name
YouTube.
it, and they have people. So so they're sitting very pretty.
I think so too. I think this was the best, like, OpenAI crushing is the best thing that happened to Google this year. Because remember, they were in court for monopoly and potentially like getting broken up into multiple pieces. Everything was on the table: Chrome, Android, YouTube. They're like, we got to break all these companies up. We got to break up the search business. And then, as you said, they came with the evidence. They're like, OpenAI is right here stealing our lunch. And the judge was like, oh, you're right. Maybe your business is not as defensible. Like, maybe, maybe you should stay where you are. And sure enough, judge done, no breakup, and Google eating OpenAI's lunch back. And so now they're crushing it to a way where they just took 30% market share back from OpenAI, which nobody would have thought like people would be switching that easily, because like once you're using an app, you kind of like not going back. And so everybody was kind of like, if Google is too late, like people will just be like already sitting in, they will already be like sitting with their apps with ChatGPT. They're not going to go around and make it a verb and like Googling. And so like then you kind of like screwed. And then next thing you know, Code Red at OpenAI, they're like, we got to go focus. Yeah. We're losing customers. We're losing our user base. And so they're like in Code Red right now trying to figure out how they can win their users back, because they were obviously going in every which direction, basically. And Google just has such a massive team. They brought back Google Labs, which is my favorite. People that don't know Google Labs, it's basically all like the small features that come out that they don't know are going to actually make it to market. So they're kind of like MVP products. experiments, and it's a way for Google to launch products easily. They don't have to go through all the regulations. They just call it a beta, and they brought back Google Labs, and Google Labs has been cooking. New code editor, website generator, lovable competitor. They just came out with like an email AI agent that gives you like it's called Google CC, where it gives you a daily agenda of like what's going on. Look at your calendar. Here's your to-dos. Here's a summary. Here's how you prepare for your meetings. Like all these things that all these tools do, and they're like, it's free. Just use it. It comes with the G Suite, and so I mean, wow, talk about a turnaround. They have just been cooking, and as you said, the models are great. I think at this point the models are pretty much like, for me, they're pretty much equal in terms of performance, and it's just really about like how the inference is and how they're kind of like how the prompting works and kind of what you get in terms of like the responses, like how they're crafted. But I can tell you this, I have been going a lot less with ChatGPT. I definitely went from like a heavy user to mostly using Google now, and Grok from X AI. Just because they have such a unique way to search like real-time data and like X tweets and stuff like that. Which is maybe a segue to
Let's do it.
XAI.
Let's
XAI
go.
cooking behind the ball, 2 years behind, and then leave it up to Elon to just basically be like, regulate, let's slow down everybody, and then give himself some time, and then next thing you know, they're just crushing. Like they came out of nowhere. They're like basically DeepSeek. They're like, here's the first model. Yeah, it's kind of okay. Yeah. And then they came out with Grok 4.0, and then first 2, then 3, then 4, and now they're in 4.1, and wow, they're so good, and they're so fast, and they're kind of like, it shows you how once you have the data centers and you actually know what you're doing, because everybody's using the same data. In the beginning, it was really easy for him to catch up because Elon is Elon. He just built a data center in like 6 weeks, which take people like 6 months. And he had Tesla batteries stationed there, so he just has like this network. And the next thing you know, they're just out there crushing. And I think the funniest thing was, not to completely derail this conversation, but Grokipedia. Now he's like, screw Wikipedia, we have all the knowledge. So he came out with Grokipedia, where he's basically rebuilding it with AI now and trying to compete with Wikipedia, basically. It's funny. It was a joke on a podcast, and he then made it an actual product, of course. So yeah, it's just funny. It's funny, but like it's just wild to see. Like never bet against Elon. It's like kind of like my philosophy here. But yeah, crushing at XAI.
I mean, yeah.
What is your take?
Grok 4. Do you remember earlier this year, Waifu, which was all these chatbot companions, and this female chatbot companion?
Yes.
These were things that, like, could be a sign of death for many AI companies, that where like things go wrong, things go south, whatever, or people react in a bad way. I mean, Elon is made of Teflon. Things just don't stick, and he just tries things and throws it out there, and he is positioned extremely well. Yes. For this race as well. I mean, not only with LLMs, with Grok 3 and 4, also, which I'm sure we'll talk about, Tesla, robotics in that space.
Yep.
Also, data centers in space in the future. I mean, a lot of interesting things going on there, and he's ready to go.
It's wild. We have a data center topic coming up, so we're going to talk about that in a second, because there's actually some interesting news out there. But yes, I think OpenAI, circling back to them, they obviously had like their O3 moment, which is the thinking model where it was like, whoa, this is like actually getting really smart, and then all the way to hyping up GPT-5 as the Death Star, and then it was kind of like, meh. It was fine. It got better over time. I think it was kind of like their first product that was overhyped, and they kind of took back a little bit of the hype cycle. I think to give them kudos, though, on the GPT-5 model, it's gotten a lot better just by improving it under the hood. They came out with 5.1 and 5.2. But I think they really cracked the code of like not having to choose. That was always the problem. It's like, here's 10 different ways you can do this. And everybody's like, I don't know what all these numbers mean. Like, just give me an answer, basically. And I think they were like kind of like the first ones to kind of crack the code there, and make the best user experience, basically. And everybody kind of followed. I think Google, Grok, they're all kind of like following in the same strategy now, where they have basically two modes: thinking long or fast, and like you pick. And so you kind of like know what to do. So it's pretty simple. And you don't have to like worry about like all the versioning numbers anymore. They're finally getting rid of these names, and they're just calling it like fast and thinking, which is great. Super confusing to everybody.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you have like Grok 15.672, and you're like, okay, cool. I don't know what this means anymore.
What does this mean now? Yeah. I think OpenAI, to their credit also, I think, GPT-5 did not hit a home run, but I do think with Sora, actually, and in the direction, if we're looking at images, videos, I think that's a very interesting play. They're not as diversified with their products as a Google, but moving into Sora, their deal recently with Disney for copyright, or for like IP on all Disney characters. Smart.
Remember, we talked about this on the pod.
Yeah,
we talked about it. I'm like, they need to do this. And sure enough, boom, here's the deal. Couple billions, Disney's pockets.
It's a new advertising model. It's like a new setup, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, OpenAI, all of them, they are burning money. They are burning money as quickly as they can. And so they need cash. They need more of it to build more data centers, to train more models. And that was a really good, smart business decision, I think, of OpenAI to do that with Sora. And they're gonna be able to create more data that they can use for the future. So it hasn't been like the knock out of the park year for them as much as it could have been, but they're still there. They're still very much a contender.
I mean, they're still crushing. Let's be honest. Like there are like stats of like hundreds of millions of weekly active users out of nowhere. I mean, they're still crushing. Like, we got to give some kudos where kudos is due, but like, it's tough out there. It's a tough environment. Like, you see like people, like these companies coming out with these models, and you can see the distribution is everything, aka Google. And OpenAI is mostly living from end consumers. They're not really living from like, they're not making money off companies, aka Anthropic, which is focusing primarily on API products.
JP, you're such a good seguer.
But Anthropic, still crushing it, still out there. And you kind of see everybody's kind of like trying to find their own lane almost. It's like, Anthropic is like the company-to-company API model that you use for coding and like for actual apps and products. OpenAI is kind of like the king of end consumers. And then Google is kind of becoming this like behemoth, like just in the middle, does everything basically. Because they have the distribution and they have all the Google products. But Anthropic has been crushing it on the API side and the product side. And their models have gone from still the best models in coding to even better models in coding. And the latest release with Opus 4.5 is basically, think about like when O3 was launched from a smart perspective, but like the speed of like a really fast model. So they've kind of cooked. They've gotten like a golden recipe on how this works. And I've been using Opus 4.5 over the last 2 weeks exclusively. It's phenomenal. It's great. It's fast. It's smart. It's like doesn't hallucinate as much. And they have just done a great job at crushing the B2B market, basically.
I really liked their approach, where they just doubled down on building a model that worked for their developers.
Yes.
So it was very much an internal product. They knew they were using it all the time. They were making it better for them, and that is a recipe that we've seen over and over again that works. Slack was started that way. Gmail internally at Google, like all of these products are built often for their own employees, and they can really grow it. And so developers, definitely the first one. Dario, the CEO, has said that they're looking at healthcare next. They're looking at other industries, and it's a B2B play, and they're they're very happy with having that lane and being separate from OpenAI and a little bit of Google as well.
Yeah, and as an engineer, like you can get the model everywhere now. So like they have their own API, so you can sign up with Anthropic directly. But what they have been doing really intelligently, like they've partnered up with AWS. So if you have your apps hosted at AWS, you can get it through there. They just partnered up with Google, so you can now get it through GCP. So they have done the perfect play, because software companies, they have all their stuff in a certain cloud, either Amazon or Google. And so like when all these AI companies came out, they had to basically like sign up with a new vendor and data agreements and go through legal requirements. And now it's just like sitting in the same account, same data agreements, nothing changes, no new, like everything is like the same. And especially large company like that a lot from a security and privacy perspective. And so that's where Anthropic has just been crushing, because they're just in every cloud now. So you can get them everywhere, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, super cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, you know what? Something that's not coming up here, which I was just thinking about, Perplexity.
Oh.
And it's like, I am nervous. So I am a Perplexity user. I think it's actually really nice that you can switch models and use sort of all of them. I'm really interested to see what they do in 2026 if they survive. They did come out with Comet, just like OpenAI with Atlas. There is going to be a browser.
That Atlas browser flopped.
Yeah,
it was like bad. It was wild.
Yeah.
Like it was just didn't work.
No, and so like maybe it's too early for a browser war. Maybe that's just not going to happen. Especially when people with Google, when Gemini is like much easier in Chrome. It may just be a moot point over there, and we're not going to go into the browser war in 2026. Who knows? But otherwise, Perplexity needs to find their lane, and I don't know if they will. We'll see.
It's still great for like online research and doing that kind of stuff. They're still crushing it there, but I barely use it. I like have no use case for it. I'm like everything else, like especially with Gemini, like in Google search built in and grounding now, where like they actually do a Google search behind the scenes.
Yeah.
My God, so good. You can't beat that. Like you just can't beat that.
And it's automatically connected to your Drive. It's connected to Google there's so much more now.
Yeah.
And remember, actually, in the beginning of the year, I think slowly but surely, OpenAI, others, you could all of a sudden integrate with your Gmail, or you can integrate with these different tools and the apps that you use. And now, once Google turned that on, it's like, oh, cool, great.
It just works.
Here we are.
Yeah. Nothing to do. It just works.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. No, the Connect has gotten really good. Makes it really easy to like get stuff done. And it's not technical. You just like click a button, log in, done. I'm like, cool, this is awesome. Like this is how it should be.
Yeah. Another big thing this last year was various other apps on building code, building websites. Yes. We have Replit, we had Lovable. These are companies that grew to 100 million, 200 million ARR faster than many other companies before them, and they're really making it easier and easier for low code, no code, for non-developers to build stuff. I remember using Lovable in the beginning of the year, and you still had to. I mean, it was good, but it was clunky, right? Like you still had to connect a database. You had to know what that meant. You had to like also set up authentication separately and like connect emails, whatever. And now you just click a few buttons, or you type a prompt, and it does it, and it connects in the background. So they're just making it easier and easier for you to build stuff. It's really that's been a really interesting timeline as well.
And hot off the press, Lovable just announced they're raising $330 million at a $6.6 billion evaluation. So holy cow, like that's a Series B round. That's not even a E or late round. It's a Series B. Like they have just been crushing it. But I'm really curious to see how defensible that business is, on how many people actually end up using it for a long time, versus just like, using the code editor, using like, back to the basics. But, they're still GoDaddy websites and they're still, website builders, and they're still Squarespace, and somehow they're still making money. But I'm really curious to see how that will shift and how that will stay around, and like how they're going to develop the company, because I don't think like they can be that successful by just building websites for fun, basically, or like for like marketing websites, because it's not really there yet to build like true apps, or like the actual businesses. So it's been always like the marketing websites or prototyping. It's great for like when we work at when we build products, we can kind of like prototype and iterate really quickly without having a designer every time and like a product manager. We just kind of like type it in. It's like, oh, what about this table over here? And then change the buttons, and then we'll just do it for you, right? Which is awesome. But I'm really curious to see what they're going to do and where the business is going. But yes, it's been amazing, and it's been wild to see that now everybody can basically build stuff just with plain language, and that's been phenomenal, and it's gotten better and better.
Yeah, with that also, the future could be, and what people are seeing in their crystal balls a little bit, is this shift. If that gets easier and easier, is this shift from a software as a service to a service as a software, they're saying, where it's essentially you flip it on your head, where you don't need your company to learn how to use Salesforce, but you can actually build your own SaaS pretty quickly and easily that works perfectly for your custom, unique scenario, and you jump into that. And I think there can definitely be some truth to it. I think what the SaaS, what I read somewhere was SaaS companies, they see very high margins, and the AI margin right now for that sort of thing, especially with prototyping, is actually a little lower. So they're not looking to really jump into that, but then they're gonna have to watch out, because that's gonna be the blockbuster Netflix scenario moving forward.
Once the cost gets down, the tokens, and they keep going down. I mean, they've already went down like tremendously, but like right now it's actually pretty equivalent in terms of like costs. It's not really worth it. And look, it sounds great. You can just build a CRM and like it works, but like in reality, like you have to have full-time people focusing on that, and like there's always something, and like especially there's all the things that you don't think about that just work behind the scenes. So I think we're still a little bit away from that, but it's definitely going to be easier to just kind of build a dashboard. Definitely going to take away from like these offshore companies building cheap code. I think that will be completely replaced by Vibe.
Yeah. So something they said in the beginning of the year, JP, was many said that this would be the year of the agents, the AI agents. What do you think? Did you see that happening? What's your stance there?
I think it has been the year of the agents. I think they have gone mainstream, and most people don't even realize it. But if you call a call center or you chat, a lot of the stuff is now AI powered. Big example, Salesforce. They rolled out a whole support with chat now, and it's actually good. It's actually useful. And instead of like waiting in line or waiting for a support ticket, you actually get answers like much quicker. So the self-service, the satisfaction rate for me is much higher. And then the other day, gotta admit, I went to Taco Bell. I went through a drive-thru, and there was an AI answering machine. Like, what do you want to order? I'm the Taco Bell AI. Worst experience in my life. So definitely the wrong way to start, because like way too many customizations, and I couldn't keep up and was way too slow. But for customer service, it's been a huge game changer. I think everything that's outbound is kind of awkward. You don't want to really have like a AI sales bot calling you or call your customers. It's kind of weird. Takes away the connection. I think everything that's inbound is phenomenal. It takes away the first level support. It takes away all the annoying questions. It takes away all the grunt work. It makes the customer satisfaction so much higher. People get to their answers much quicker, which means they're happier. The answers are, I would say, 90%, 95% correct, and you actually get what you need. So I think that it has been the year of the agent, and I think it has gone somewhat mainstream. And if you now pay attention, you will see that a lot of the stuff you're dealing with on the support side may already be powered by AI. If you now actually take a look and like lift the blanket a little bit and look under it, I think you will see a lot of stuff is already powered by AI, and it's very successful. What's your take?
Yeah, you're seeing it. I think the AI agent space, you're seeing that in customer support, You're seeing it in marketing. We're seeing, and for better or for worse, we're seeing a lot of quote unquote AI slop out there.
Yeah.
It's sort of a lot of trial and error and seeing what works, what doesn't. And at this point, it's not good enough to make the marketing be awesome and different and stand out. But it will only take time for us to get there.
Talking
But you're
about AI.
seeing it in.
Oh, right.
Sorry,
Sorry.
no, go
I was
for it.
like talking about AI slop. Worst experience. Gotten so bad now. I'm like pissed almost. Link.
Tell me about it, JP.
I was posting a job the other day, and the amount of fake AI generated applications, LinkedIn profiles, and just it's wild. It's absolutely driving me bonkers. And the fact
Yeah.
that it hasn't been solved on these job boards is driving me bonkers because it's so easy to detect these AI profiles that have no followers, no comments, but like worked at Google, Facebook, and Meta, like all these companies for 10 years are like the super senior engineers and all have like the fake open to work like badge on like with no profile picture basically. I was like, it's so easy to detect, but you have to go through so many profiles. And then what I've seen is sometimes they get smart and you get somebody on the screen and they don't speak English. You can see the lips are not synchronized. It's just translating live. And they're speaking like Chinese or something, and like it's like translate to English in real time, and they act like they're like in the Bay Area, but they're sitting somewhere in China. And I'm like, what is going on over here? Like, how can we not filter this out yet? And so, AI slop, number one example, super annoying. And so there's definitely like a very good example where AI is like going in the wrong direction, and we haven't like really caught up to the protection side yet.
Totally. The number of scams, the Nigerian princes of 2025. There's so much out there, and that's gonna continue. There's gonna be a lot out there, but it's slop. I mean, the number of LinkedIn messages I get, and then the repeats and the reach outs, and it's a lot of it's
wild.
a new way, and there needs to be a filter.
Some filtering.
There needs to be totally.
I 100%
Totally
agree. Hopefully we can
that
fix
would
that.
be an AI agent in itself. But yeah, I do see AI agents. I think they grew a lot. I think they grew a lot in certain parts of the industry, like various industries, and it will only continue to grow. I think the next. I think somebody in the AI space said that it's really going to be the decade of agents. I think that's going to continue because before that sort of permeates throughout all different industries, it's just gonna take a little bit.
Yeah, and they're getting better and better. I think they're trying to like have running tasks now for 20, 30 minutes at a time without just putting back garbage, but actually like productive, like working on something.
Yeah.
So you'll see all these models that are coming out are actually optimized towards long running agents. That's what they're currently all optimizing for, all these companies. So that you can give it a task and it will just like be busy for 20, 30 minutes and actually solve it for you in the background.
Yeah. And if you actually look at that graph, I think it's the meter index that looks at that, how long can a task go?
Yes.
You see it, and you look at all the different models that even came out throughout the year. It's going up and up and up, and you're so if you just continue and extrapolate, you can see in a few years that there could be tasks of days, of multiple hours, and so it'll be interesting to see.
That's awesome. Cool. Talking about slop, talking about like scams. Let's talk a second about some rulings, government rulings, laws. Obviously, everybody's trying to figure out what to do. You know my perspective. I know you're going to get a laugh out of this one. The EU is trying to regulate everything as always. They see innovation and there's like, oh, let's put a law in place. Like, let's regulate it. It's dangerous. So, kick us off with the AI EU. I'm always interested. You are now basically living in Europe, so you're very affected by this. So kick us off.
Yeah, so the AI EU Act, a part of it did go into effect in February, and that was more specifically for the unacceptable risk scenario. So the really the socially harmful, really intense sort of stuff that would be enforced. That's enforced since February. The rest of the AI EU Act is really going to come into effect next year, And it's there's a lot out there where you're okay, great, you want to enforce that, but how are you going to enforce it? How are we going to measure these things? There's a lot out there that's not clear. There are no governing parties that are going to be doing this, or no organizations that are handling this. So there's a lot out there. I think governments in general, I think they're always going to be steps behind technology and things moving forward. And we, as a society, need to talk about how AI is going to affect us and that could be through transitional vocation jobs or trainings or many other things. But just trying to throw something big and not really do it in a good way. That's one thing. So.
Here's my problem with this. Is like a lot of the AI regulations, what they're trying to solve, are already civil laws. You cannot threaten somebody. Yes, like that is already a civil law. You don't need an AI law to kind of like enforce that.
Yeah.
If you give somebody suicide, like there is civil laws already for this. So like I don't understand most of this. Like there are some laws trying to be passed in California and in Colorado around like discrimination of groups, and I'm like, how are you going to prove this? Like if you tell ChatGPT that you believe in a flat Earth, it will only tell you flat Earth facts. I mean facts. But like it will do what you tell it to do, and like how are you going to regulate that? That all of a sudden like you're going to judge somebody, like you're going to fine a company because they're giving information out that like the Earth is flat, so like that's wrong, like misinformation. I'm like, but you can just instruct it to do that, and you can live in your own world. I'm like, that's my problem, and I think that in the U.S., I think that they're actually solving this right now. I've heard some rumors. I mean, not that I'm connected. I've read about rumors. That there is going to be a federal law being passed, or some federal laws that will basically set some standards and will prohibit states from enforcing a bunch of like local laws, because the worst thing you can have is a bunch of like different local laws, California, Colorado, New York, and then if you want to roll out your AI model, you have to comply to all these different state laws, and that's going to be a nightmare. And if that's going to happen, the U.S. is not going to win the AI war. They're not going to be the main company, because it's going to be impossible to roll out. The best example was like California clean cars or whatever the regulation was. And they had to basically build two different cars because California had different regulations. And then they basically adapted the standard, and now they just sell one car, and everybody kind of like has the California standards across the US. And you could argue that was maybe a good move, but at the end of the day, it's a pain in the ass, because what are you going to do? Like build two models, build two cars? Like that's just like not feasible. And so I hope that we're going to get some clarity there and some guidance, just to kind of like make sure that we don't get into a situation. Luckily, we do have a good guy on the AI czar right now, David Sachs. He's actually very well connected in the industry, so I have some hope there. But as you said, normally the governments are kind of like running behind, and they're still trying to figure out like what ChatGPT is, and they're trying to make the regulations about something they have no clue about. So I hope that we're not getting in our own way, and kind of like hinder innovation here, because we have no idea yet where this is going, and you can't kind of like govern something that you don't even know yet where it's going to go.
Yeah. I mean, that would be the worst case scenario, right? When different states have different rulings, where the US would fall behind in AI research, tech being in the forefront, especially with such an AI arms race. And because AI is general intelligence and affects every industry and everything, it's and will affect everything. It is definitely national security.
It's a national security level. Like people don't realize, like this thing is like national. Like we have to win. Like this is literally like, this is not just like, this is like the internet basically. Like you have to win. You can't live in a closed internet. You can't have like somebody else just like bringing down your grid because like they have like 10 times more advanced AI. Like we're talking about like truly national security here, which is why this is so important. And I don't think we talk about it enough, or like the media doesn't talk about it enough, where like this is not just like an app, like some fun gimmick, like sure, like you see the app, but like at the end of the day, this goes so much deeper. Like we talked about scams and like, people taking pictures of Facebook and putting them into a van and sending you emails like, I got your mother in the back of the van, go send me $10,000, right? And that's a real thing, by the way. But we have to have the technology to like basically overcome that and use it for the good. And so if we're way behind, there's no way we're going to do this. And so I really hope that we win this, and I will do my best to participate there. But yeah, I think it's been very important, and I think we should talk about it more often. And I hope we'll get a good spin on it. AI needs a good media person. They need to figure out how they can like make it, they need some spokesman, better than Sam Altman, who's basically telling everybody like jobs will go away. And so we will need some better marketing.
Yeah. Well, and that actually, one thing that I think did come out this year, which now I think I have a pretty good segue. AI 2027 was a report that came out from an OpenAI insider and various other people in the space. And it was a really interesting read. It's a website. You can go through it, and it shares sort of what they think the future could look like. And in that, it sort of predicts what China would do, what the US would do, what different actors would do over time. And because of that, it may not be correct. And if we look back at it, it's probably the outcomes will probably be a little bit longer and take a little bit longer than what they predicted. But it starts the conversation, and it shows how important national security is. And so I think it was a pivotal part in AI in general as a report goes, and we'll see what comes if they update that in the future and everything. But highly recommend looking at that. And then another report that came out this year that was huge in the AI space was this MIT report saying that 95% of AI projects fail. This came out mid-August, and yeah, that was a big one. But I think if you zoom out and look at it, it makes sense. AI tech and any new tech, it's to get that to be like actually incorporated in businesses, and to bring that in even when it's early days and doesn't always work or doesn't always integrate. I think there's gonna be a lot of this sort of stuff currently, and that I do think it'll only get better. But that was another big report.
Yeah, I think we talked about it as well, and I'm like, I think it's like it shows the reality on the ground, especially on the large companies where they've just been told like go do AI. I'm like, what? I don't know, just build AI stuff, and they're like, okay, cool, I'll build something. And then the second problem is the adoption of it and like having people use it with a narrative of like this will take your job away. And we're like, no, this will not take your job away. Like if we talked about it back then, but if AI will replace you, like you're probably not the best at your job, because AI was definitely not there to replace anybody's job yet. I mean, sure, we can talk about self-driving, we might be almost there, but from a day-to-day worker, and this will become very interesting, like especially like attorneys and those types of space, I think will revolutionize in medicine. Today, this year, we're definitely not there where any AI will replace any human worker. Like it's just not reality. And we're seeing it in the numbers. Nobody's being laid off. Like there have been some layoff, but like it's nothing is related to like actually AI. It's just people cutting and like, making efficiencies, because people are getting more efficient, so they have to hire less people. So I get that, but like nobody's here to be being replaced. And I think that's, again, you need a spokesman, you need a marketing person. So these people are not kind of like, I don't want to use this. This will replace my job, and as I start adopting it, it's like, no, it's not true. And on the software side, I mean, I'm in it every day. It's like, how much AI features do you build into your product, even if the adoption might be low because it looks cool in a presentation, but then nobody actually ends up using it. So building software, from what I can tell, it's like oftentimes people think they want to use it, but then they actually never ended up using it in the product. And so you build these AI features that look like a flop. But the problem is that you can't wait. If you wait and then in 2 years the adoption is there and you haven't built any AI features, all your competitors will have. And so now you're 2 years behind the curveball, and it's going to be impossible to catch up. So as a company that builds software, you have to just build the AI features. You have to build them in, even if the usage is not high. You have to build the infrastructure. You have to get your engineers exposed. You have to kind of like lay the groundwork, and you have to do it very intelligently, where you don't overinvest and not all of a sudden have a bunch of capital allocated to like just wasting time on AI. But you have to build the foundation to stay relevant and not get left behind once the adoption will come.
Yeah, you really have to try to be AI first in
Yes.
any way possible. And that may mean that your first AI project flops, or
Yes.
maybe even your second. But the learnings that you get from that, and what you then set up for the third or the fourth,
Yep.
that's where the gains are. And
That's
that's
exactly
very
right.
true. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Learning by doing. And this is a brand new
Yeah.
technology and it's changing. So you have to keep using it.
Yeah, totally. Another
Um,
big change in this year was this mindset and this whole world on data centers.
yes.
JP, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, look, we again talked about this on the pod last time. A couple data centers were canceled. We obviously need more. We need more electricity. That's really what it comes down to. We need to do more compute in order to get the AI cost, the tokens down. We have to build up more compute. It's already limited what you can do today. That's why it's relatively expensive. In order to solve that problem, you have to build more data centers. In order to build data centers, you have to have electricity. You have to have more power. We have not done a great job anywhere but in China to build more build more capacity. And so you see data centers being canceled because of like local municipalities and local residents fearing that electricity rates will skyrocket, which they already are in many areas. Like where I live in Westlake, there's a monopoly of SCE and it's terrible. Like the rates just keep going up and there's no competition. And then now imagine you have like this AI data center sitting there. Of course it's going to be bad publicity. Like it's not going to be good. So they're trying to solve it. They're trying to solve it by creating more electricity. I think we'll see nuclear making a comeback. I think they will have to take a lot of money and produce their own electricity or kind of fund rates. And so where this thing gets now super spacey is Google had a comment of like, hey, why don't we just build data centers in space? It's cold. So like you need a lot less electricity to cool these things down. Um, and going back to our boy Elon, he's like, huh, that's interesting. Let me look into this. And he was just like picking up this comment by Google. And then turns out a week later, there's a report where Elon is like, actually, because we have SpaceX and actually because we have Starlink and we have satellites in space, we can re-leverage the satellites and we can kind of like modify them to actually do compute in space. And so that would be a game changer. And I am betting my money right now that by next year, SpaceX, somewhere in the Elon empire, there will be a small data center, whether it does like one tad and one bit, but there will be something in space that will be a data center. I don't know the size, but something will be there. And I think a lot of the compute will move into space. The costs might be high to get there, but if once you have it figured out, it's like so much cheaper to maintain. And so I'm very curious of this. I'm very excited to see what comes out of it. I think you mentioned it in the pre-shows, Nick. It's cold, 24/7 sun, like it's ideal conditions. And so I'm super excited to see. And I think for the first time, when people say, let's just do it in space, it's for the first time not going to be sci-fi. It's going to be actually like reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like, to bring national security back real quick about this, China can build data centers way faster than we can in the U.S. Or in Europe, and that's because of the land rights, democratically like finding
So
the
much red tape. So
so
much
much red
red
tape,
tape. Yeah.
and so going into space is a way to for a democratic country to also sort of like step forward and be on the same sort of pace and race as China in the supply of data and like handling that stuff. So yeah, really interesting to see. Excited to see how that plays out.
I think it'll be crazy. I'm very excited to see it. I think for the first time, we're going to be like, well, this shit actually works. And like, yeah,
Yeah,
it works.
yeah, yeah. All
Let's
right,
wrap it up.
so
Let's bring it
let's
home.
wrap it up. Let's bring it home. We got one
Let's
more
bring
topic.
one more topic right on time. Wow. You would think we plan these sessions like in weeks out. We know exactly how many times we have for each slot. We're just, pretty natural
Yeah.
coming to this.
Oh yeah.
Nick, we kind of brought it up a little bit. Job replacement. We talked about it a little bit. We're seeing one industry definitely getting very close. We saw one company coming out with a humanoid robot you can put in your home. But let's talk about robots. Take it
Yeah.
away, Nick. Give me your take.
Yeah, robots this year. A lot of growth. I think the majority of growth we saw, in as we started with models, LLMs, that whole world. Many people throughout the year said, okay, robots are like 5 years behind. I think what we did see this year, we saw humanoid robot demos that some of them seemed to work, some of them seemed to flop. So like there's still a lot of growth there. But an area of robots that we have seen a lot of progress is with the self-driving cars, and so much of that is Tesla and the data that they have from all the cars, as well as Waymo
Backed by
growing a
Google.
lot, backed by Google.
Yep.
And yeah, and self-driving cars coming out now, also in New York recently. They're going to be coming out in London in a year. So they're really they're growing as well in that space. So robots are not far behind.
I mean, they're growing rapidly. If you look at San Francisco, where Waymo started, they took over 30% of market share. They already outgrew Lyft, which is crazy. But they took away 30% of Uber's market share. And I can tell you, I have done a lot of Waymos when I lived in San Francisco for two reasons. A, we had dogs, so it's so much easier to travel with dogs than Waymos because nobody freaks out. It's just you. There's nobody you have to be worried about. So you can bring your dogs very easily everywhere. Secondly, the cars are nice, they're clean, and there's nobody babbling to you. It's just like nice. It's just like you get in
Yeah.
there, you play your own music, you put your own air
Yeah.
conditioner on, and you just go spaces. And it's like it's just a very pleasant experience. And it works really well to the point where like, holy crap, this thing is like very confident, like this right turn right now and like squeezing in. But it works. And I only had good experiences. And now they expanded to Austin. I did it in Austin when I was there last week. It's awesome. It's so nice. I just did one mistake because they're not allowed on the freeways in Austin yet. I didn't know that. So my commute went from 7 minutes to 18 minutes because it had to take like all the side streets. So that was not that ideal. But yeah, Tesla obviously is there. Robo taxis. They presented this year the first cars that are going to be driverless. So they don't even have like a driving seat or like a cockpit anymore. It's just going to be turned around seats. So they will be coming out. They're going to have like so much data and like they're just going to be crushing it in my opinion. And typical Elon style, he launched it with like, every ride was $4.20 for his 420 theme. So it was just funny to see, but they still have a driver sitting in there in the cockpit right now in Austin. I think they're still trialing it, but they're expanding very rapidly. And Waymo has just been crushing it in every city, like Phoenix, Austin, San Francisco for sure. They're now in Los Angeles. So you kind of see them everywhere. And sure, people make fun of them here and there because they cause like an incident or like there's like a bunch of Waymos stuck with each other. But at the end of the day, they're gonna dominate, and we're gonna have to look what we're gonna do with these people, because I think that's where job replacement is somewhat real. And a lot of people are now relying full time on Uber and those types of rideshare gigs, and I think they're coming fast for them. Because you can even do grocery deliveries, right? You just go up there to go to Target, you park the car, somebody loads it up, car drives to you, you unload it, and then that's done, right? Now you replace the Instacart driver, DoorDash driver. So I think we're going to see a lot of like food delivery with robots and that kind of stuff, and obviously human transportation. And I'm here for it. I'm excited. I think it will make things a lot more efficient and easier. Good times. 2027
Yeah.
should be exciting.
Yeah. 2026. Let's see what comes up.
2026. I'm already 2027.
Yeah. Whoa, you are.
I already
in the
skipped.
future,
I already
man.
skipped. I already skipped. Have you used the Waymo yet, Nick? Have you had the pleasure yet?
No, I haven't actually.
Oh,
Nowhere. When in New York, when I was there, didn't exist yet, and then in Amsterdam, I mean, there may be Waymo bikes, but not yet.
yeah.
Not yet.
Maybe in 10 years. Maybe in 10 years
Yeah,
in New
exactly.
York.
Way later. Way later. So, yeah. So
Awesome, Nick.
That's 2025 in a
That's
nutshell.
2020. Yeah, in a nutshell. What a year. So much happening.
What a year.
So much
And
happening.
listeners, thanks for listening. Thanks for being there with us throughout the year, the highs and the lows.
Yes, the highs and lows,
yeah.
last minute changes. So we
Yeah.
appreciate it. I think we have a couple cool plans that we're going to be planning for next year. Going to make the show pep up a little bit, bring it to the next level. So I'm excited about that, Nick. Kind of like brainstorm with you
Yeah.
and kind of like, show to everybody. Honestly, I've gotten a lot of good feedback of like people really enjoying it, consuming it asynchronously, especially in the Get Vibey community. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for, being my co-host for a full year now already, which is crazy.
It's
And I'm
crazy.
very excited for next year.
Yeah, JP, me too. And Get Vibey, we'll see you in 2026.
Yes, we will see you in 2026. We have our LA holiday party tonight, so I will see a bunch of members. We had it in Austin last weekend and in LA tonight. So excited for that. And then we're all gonna go and enjoy a nice Christmas and New Year's break.
Nice.
Get a little rest, and then we come strong in January again.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Awesome, Nick.
Happy holidays,
Well,
everyone. And
yes, happy holidays.
yeah,
Nick, enjoy your time in the States with family and friends.
thank you.
And
You
happy holidays
too.
to you.
And
Thank
we'll
you.
We'll chat in 2026.
Let's do it. All right.
All
Thank
right.
you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.